This is a first in a series of videos intended to provide the viewer with a comprehensive in-depth look at the Ursa Mini Pro Cinema camera. Think of this video as a video manual for your camera. If you're thinking of buying one, or you already own one, or you're just curious, this video is for you. All products mentioned in this video will have links in the description. This date shown is when the video was first posted to YouTube. Since a camera is basically a computer, software updates can frequently occur. Since this camera was released in March of 2017, the camera has had numerous updates. This video reflects the release version of the Camera 6.0 software. The Ursa Mini Pro is a 4.6K cinema camera with some hybrid broadcast camera features. We'll get into the resolutions and codecs in another video. Let's look at the exterior of the camera and its controls. This example of the camera has the Canon EF lens mount, a third-party CFast to SSD adapter made by CC Tech. The cost of CFast cards is still significant, so these types of converters allow you to use inexpensive SSDs. The camera doesn't come with a battery plate. The user is expected to purchase a gold mount or V-mount plate for the camera. This particular camera was purchased from B&H Photo in New York, and included with the camera at no extra cost was an Indy Pro battery plate, 2 of these compact V-mount batteries, and a charger. We had one battery fail under warranty, and Indy Pro was very good at getting the replacement to us quickly. The other rigging elements on this camera were purchased from SmallRig. The camera's startup time is 10 seconds. The left side or AC side of the camera has a flip-out monitor / touchscreen with a display on the outside as well as a number of controls. The flip-out monitor doesn't rotate 90 degrees, so you'll need another outboard monitor to aim towards the subject if needed. The controls on the outside of the flip-out display consist of a small speaker used during clip playback. Next is the channel pair selector switch. This switch does nothing. Its intended use is to allow you to switch between 2 different pairs of recording channels, but Blackmagic design has yet to implement the feature, so best to leave it set to channels 1 and 2. Next is the lock switch. This switch locks all of the controls on the outside of the flip-out display. This is useful when there's a risk that the audio level controls down here might get bumped. Not likely in my opinion. These dials are pretty hard to turn. Audio meters are displayed on the LCD status screen, which we'll get to in a moment. Below the LCD status screen is a row of function keys. From right to left, we start with the bright key, which allows you to turn the LCD backlight on and then set 2 more levels of brightness. The camera will remember your setting here. Next is the timecode button that lets you switch between generated time of day, external timecode, or clip duration. By default, the camera uses free-running time of day timecode, as this is the most commonly used. Pressing and holding the timecode button for 5 seconds places the camera into record run timecode mode to accommodate a custom timecode. The timecode generator will flash. You can now use the menu wheel to set your custom timecode value as you see here. Press In on the menu dial once you've set the desired value, and you'll be positioned to set the next segment of the timecode. You can use the reset button here to reset the timecode back to 0. Once you have the desired value entered, you can hold the timecode button for 3 seconds to set this as the new custom timecode value. This new timecode value will only increment when the camera is recording. Also note that the timecode button's behavior is different in this mode. It will now switch between your custom timecode and a 0-base clip length timecode. To restore the camera to time of day free run mode, press the timecode and hold button simultaneously for 3 seconds. The hold button allows you to freeze or hold the current timecode until you release the button. The still button causes the camera to generate a single uncompressed raw DNG frame and store it on your media in a folder called Stills. This frame is the full sensor, 4.6K. This is super handy for creating clean plates for object removal and compositing. Below this is the iris button. On supported EF lenses, you can use this button and the camera will attempt to set exposure when the camera is set to video dynamic range. In film dynamic range mode or log, the camera will attempt to set the exposure to the brightest highlight in the scene. Since it only affects the iris, its successful use is situational. You can use the forward and backward transport controls to set the iris manually, as well as the thumb wheel at the upper left side of the camera. The focus button will perform a one-shot autofocus. When pressed, a white square appears in the center of the frame to indicate the area that the camera will attempt to focus on. There's no continuous autofocus, nor can you change where the autofocus point is at in the frame. The PGM or program button allows you to switch your view to the SDI input on the camera. This is typically used in multi-camera broadcast situations where the live TV feed or program feed is sent to each of the cameras from the video switcher. This allows the operator to quickly see what content is being broadcast live. To lock the display on the program view, press the program button twice. To return to normal operation, press the program button once. The playback controls allow you to view clips that you've recorded on the camera. Pressing the play button switches the camera into playback mode. A status light will turn green while in playback mode. Press play again to begin playback of the clip. To return it to normal operation, oddly, press the record button. A status light will return to white to indicate the camera is ready. The forward and backward transport controls can be used to skip between clips as well as to skip to the beginning or end of a clip. Holding a transport key momentarily will initiate 2x speed playback. Once 2x speed has been initiated, pressing a transport button twice will result in 4x playback speed. Pressing 3x results in 8x and 4x gives you 16x. Additionally, as previously mentioned, these transport controls will control the iris on supported EF lenses. It should be noted that off-speed clips will play back at the project frame rate. So a 24 FPS project with 60 FPS off-speed will appear as slow motion during playback on the camera. These two dial controls allow you to control the input level of your audio from the two XLR inputs on top of the camera. You can see the input levels on the LCD status screen. Opening up the flip-out display reveals the media storage area as well as some more controls. The camera accommodates 2 CFast cards and 2 SD cards. We use the Toshiba Xperia Pro 270 MB per second SD cards and they work well. You can switch between the different types of media using this switch. And this can be done while the camera is running. Media can also be removed and replaced with the camera running. The USB-C slot is used for software updates to the camera. These top switches allow you to set the input type for the XLR ports as well as setting phantom power. It should be noted that phantom power should always be off unless an appropriate device is connected to the XLR input on the top of the camera. Always ensure that phantom power is turned off before you connect or disconnect anything to the XLR connectors. Failure to do this can result in equipment damage. Below these switches, we have the menu button that brings up the main system menu on the camera's flip-out display. I'll be going over that menu in detail in another video. Next to that, we have a duplicate of the PGM or program button found on the outside of the flip-out display's door. Next to this, we have a button to turn peaking on and off. And next to that, we have a button to trigger the autofocus in compatible EF lenses, like the button on the outside of the flip-out door. Here is another set of transport controls, very handy when the display is flipped out. A record button and a button combo to use to power the camera on and off in the event the main power switch fails. Looking at the forward control panel, there's a 3-position switch and a rotary dial. The switch allows you to select which of the 3 functions is affected by the rotary dial. The top setting allows you to control the volume of your headphones. The second setting allows you to control the volume of the speaker or audio monitor. and the bottom setting allows you to control the iris on supported EF lenses. Below these controls are a thumb wheel and a back button. As previously described, the menu wheel can be used to set timecode values in the custom timecode mode. It can also be used to navigate the on-screen controls on any display attached to the forward SDI BNC connector. Typically, this will be the Blackmagic EVF, but it works on any display connected to this SDI connection. When the front SDI is configured to display status text in cinematographer mode, you can press the wheel to activate it, and you can see the upper left on-screen icon is selected. Rotating the wheel selects other on-screen controls. Pressing the wheel selects the control to change its value. Use the wheel again to navigate the options. Once satisfied, confirm your choice by pressing the wheel. Return to the on-screen control by pressing the back button. Pressing back again leaves the mode. The lock switch locks the entire front control panel, and this is useful if you need to leave the camera unattended and you don't want any settings changed. Below that is 3 switches. They are ISO gain, shutter, and white balance. These are two-way switches that allow the operator to adjust any of these settings up or down. This type of feature is typically found on broadcast cameras. The ISO and shutter switches allow you to select all the available settings, while the white balance switch will change the white balance in 50K increments. Below those switches, we find the user-assignable F1 and F2 function buttons and the high frame rate button. The F1 and F2 buttons can be assigned to specific functions by the user in the camera's setup menu. By default, the factory sets them to false color for F1 and apply camera LUT for F2. The camera allows the operator to select a project frame rate and an off-speed frame rate. Using this, you can maintain a 24 FPS project but shoot 60 FPS off-speed. This will embed the slowed down footage into your 24 FPS clip, eliminating any need to have your post-processing software interpret the frame rate. At the bottom of the panel is a record button and the status indicator light. This light is white when the camera is ready, and will flash green and white when the camera is busy or playing a clip, and it'll turn green to indicate the camera is in playback mode. And finally, it'll turn red while recording. The camera doesn't have a front-facing tally light, but Blackmagic sells a broadcast viewfinder that has a tally. Since our next stop is the front of the camera, it's worth noting that the front-mounted ND control knob's settings are printed here on the side of the camera. The front of the camera has the lens release button for EF lenses, the ND filter knob, and below that is an auto white balance button. Pressing this button displays a white square in the center of the frame to indicate the area that the camera will sample in order to set white balance. Here's a white card lit daylight 5500 and our white balance in the camera is 3000. Pressing and holding the white balance button for 3 seconds will make the camera perform auto white balance. At the front of the camera is this mesh grill that protects a pair of small microphones to use to record scratch audio or whatever is appropriate for your project. Moving to the rear of the camera, we have a jack for a LANC control. And this LANC will accept focus, iris, and record start-stop commands. 3 BNC connectors, a 4-pin XLR power connector, and a 3.5mm jack for headset and talkback mic. Talkback is typically used on multicam and broadcast setups, but you can use an iPhone-type headset with this and it works quite well. The 4-pin power XLR connector is a locking connector and the camera accepts 12 to 20 volts DC. Above this is a timecode and reference signal input. You can synchronize to an external timecode source or send the reference signal from a video switcher to allow the cameras to be synchronized. The camera automatically detects which signal is being sent and treats it appropriately. Then we have an SDI input. This is the signal you can look at using the program or PGM button. And above this is the full SDI output, and this is the SDI output you would send to your 4K recorder. Moving to the right side of the camera, we have the side handle, a LANC jack, a 4-pin female XLR power socket, and an SDI output. This SDI output only outputs 1080 and it's really intended to be used with the power connector to attach an EVF. We use this output to drive an outboard monitor. The side handle provides autofocus and an iris function, as well as record start-stop functions via the LANC port. The handle can also be removed. That wraps up the video. The next video will cover the operation of the on-screen controls and menus of the camera. If there's something I missed or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments. I hope this video helps someone out there, and I'll see you folks in the next video, and until then, take care.